So yes, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for being here on a Sunday evening. We have Aditi with us, who's from Yellow, and she is a lawyer. She's going to be telling us some amazing stuff. And I am myself super excited about it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Meeta, for having me over. And it's always amazing to address such an enthusiastic audience.
Yes, we are equally excited, Aditi. And we will wait for another 2-3 minutes for people to join in. Before we begin today's session, I would like to warmly welcome all of you and talk for 5 minutes about moolah. So yes, ladies, moolah for women is a financial literacy and empowerment platform. And our mission is to empower women, and in particular, but we are looking to empower everyone in terms of financial literacy. So yes, no more reasons to fear. Moolah is a financial literacy platform which is with a special focus on women, and we have a unique approach to make finance simple, fun, and jargon-free. Our audience, the idea is to introduce the audience very gradually into the world of finance so that they can start taking charge of their finance from the position of knowledge. Who's moolah for? Moolah is for everyone. It's for kids. They can learn this important life skill early in life. It's for young adults who want to begin managing their money well from the very beginning. It's for working professionals who are independent but want to be confident about managing their money. It's for homemakers who want to be financially independent. It's for young women who want to get financially free faster. It's for retired women who want to start taking care of their own money. And it's also for women entrepreneurs who want to learn business finance. So yes, it's for everyone. We have a tribe of 1,000 plus women, and we have impacted about more than 4,000 women from across the world. Yes, shifting their mindsets. Just 1 second, I'm going to get some people inside. Yes, shifting their mindsets to make them feel more in charge, worthy, and deserving, empowering them to become equal stakeholders in financial decision-making, supporting them by making them part of a community of like-minded women, and of course, transforming them to become smarter, more confident, liberated, and happier. We also have impacted several kids and young adults from the age of 8 to 25 years by increasing their understanding about money, so that they can start early and so that they can begin well. And we provide them an environment so that they can ask the right questions and not feel intimidated from the very beginning about this topic, which for most of us, if we realize, is it was initially the environment wasn't so conducive for us to ask questions. But yes, nowadays kids are getting more in charge. And yes, the idea is to empower them to be confident about managing their money. We have courses specifically designed for women, which are called the Finance Essentials and Finance Advanced courses. These are both 3-month courses, which are delivered over WhatsApp, and it's a 2 to 5 minutes read per day. We also have live interactions every week with each group, which is a 1-hour interaction. And also for both the Finance Essentials as well as the Finance Advanced courses, we have 3 masterclasses, which are a part of the course. And of course, every month we have quizzes and many other interactions. And because of all this, by the end of the course, women shed away their fears and feel confident about managing their money. We also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you want to deep dive into topics of your interest or get clarity about your own personal finances or understand your own personal portfolio better, then you can come for a one-on-one coaching with us. And also we organize workshops for various target groups, which could be for kids, organizations, or any community. And these are tailor-made. So to very briefly introduce myself, I'm Meeta. I have done my MBA and I have over 30 years of experience, worked with banks and corporates, and I'm passionate about empowering women. My co-founder is Ritu. Ritu, you can say hi to everyone. Ritu is here on the call.
Hi, everyone.
So Ritu is the co-founder, and she's a dear friend of mine. She's also done her MBA. And has 30 years of experience. She's currently an organic farmer and an angel investor, and is also passionate about empowering women. We invite guest speakers, just like we've invited Aditi today. We invite various guest speakers, one every month, on various topics related to finance, mindset building, business and entrepreneurship. We also do book reviews and economic awareness and various other topics like women empowerment. And of course, we have done several corporate events for organizations, including IDFC Bank, Bajaj, Auto, Cient, NRB, L&T, and many, many more. We collaborate, and yes, we collaborate with trusted industry partners so that you can convert your knowledge into action. And here we have Yellow, our new partners, who are going to obviously tell us how. And we have some exciting, Aditi has some really exciting offers at the end of today's session. So we'd love for all of you to continue to stay here so that you can avail the offers. And of course, we have many, many more trusted partners who you can use the services of if you want to start your investment or your financial journey. Loads of tribe testimonials. I don't think I'll skip this. Of course, lots of people who feel empowered through Moolah. You can join our courses. You can book a one-on-one coaching. You can do workshops with us, or you can collaborate. And that's my personal email ID and also my WhatsApp number. So if anybody wants to, please feel free to reach out to us. And of course, just very quickly, we have our next upcoming webinar in April is about understanding your legal rights as married women. So do attend that too. It's by a lawyer, Devika Joshi. She is a divorce lawyer and she's a very acclaimed lawyer. So happy for you to all enroll for that session too as we go along in the journey in Moolah. So thank you for listening to me. And I very quickly will now introduce Aditi and then hand over the stage to her. So Aditi is a lawyer. She has 12 plus years of experience in estate planning and commercial law. She's previously worked with Kotak Mahindra Trusteeship, MUFG Bank, Paras Kuhad and Associates, and advocates. Her area of speciality includes consulting on will creation and structuring of trusts. At Yellow, one of her major endeavors is to break the stigma against will creation through awareness and education. To accelerate this change, she spearheads creation of high quality content and regularly addresses a varied set of audiences through seminars, AMAs, live sessions, and more. She's also an avid yoga practitioner and constantly works to support education of underprivileged children. In her free time, she loves to travel and create new recipes for the health conscious. So a really, really warm welcome, Aditi. Really excited to have you today with us, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Meeta. And, guys, like just to give you a quick, story on how Meeta and I met. We met, through online LinkedIn Connect. And the first time we spoke, we just like hit it off. And we are like, okay, we know that Moolah and Yellow are kind of going to work with each other. And of course, after that, because Meeta's calendar has been blocked for like quite some time, 2 months, Meeta gives me a slot and I'm like, thank you, Meeta. And yes. All right. So again, thank you so much. I know this is, the audience is a mix of men and women. But since I can see a large amount of women participants, I want to say, take out a special, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because women are always on the go, always juggling between work, family, children, spending time with a spouse, household chores, whatnot. And for you to have that awareness and inclination to take out 1 hour of your precious life, I'm really excited, and we're hoping by the end of this session, you will not regret attending this one. Okay, I'll just share my screen quickly. Okay.
Maybe Aditi, before I begin, before you begin, if I can very quickly lay some ground rules for everyone. We'd love if you have any questions to keep putting it on the chat box. And if it's relevant at that point in time, we will take it up soon. And I'll keep, probably interjecting and asking Aditi to answer those questions. Or else if they are still not answered in the middle of the session, then we will continue to answer them at the end of the session. And Aditi is here for us to answer any questions that we may have. We may kind of extended, though we are planning to, close it at the end of 7:30. But yes, if you have any questions, we are happy to continue to answer them too. Right, Aditi?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Over to you. So over to you.
Okay, so we'll dive right into this. Essentially, today's topic is to warm you up to the idea of what estate planning is. Although a lot of stuff is generic and applicable to both the genders, but I'm going to be sharing some special tips for women. Okay. So agenda is, we'll cover about the basic and the meaning. We'll cover what are various tools which are available in this space. I'll touch more upon the humble concept of a will and absolutely the most powerful one. I'll also take you through some tips specially designed for the women folks. And of course, I'll take around 5 to 7 minutes to talk about what our mission at Yellow is and how we can move towards making a more aware India. Let's understand what is the wealth journey of any individual. See, to be very frank, as Indians, we're very good at this concept of saving because it is ingrained in us that we need to take care of our next generation. I'm not talking about the millennial folks, but I'm talking about a large chunk of the Indian psyche. We obviously receive some money. It can be in the form of, salary that we receive from job or any business income, especially with the mutual funds, insurance awareness that we have. We just make sure that a portion of our income is set aside. Obviously, because we are aware that, again, as Indian parents, you need to take care of your children, education, perhaps their marriage too in most cases. However, the last part of this particular wheel that you're seeing, asset protection and transfer, that is where we as Indians are not good at. Statistics show that in the US, 40 to 50% of the people actually create a will, whereas in India, it's barely 5%. What really happens when you don't write a will? I'll come to the concept of a will, how to write it, good tips. But firstly, let's see today, without a will, what most of the Indians are really facing. Most important aspect is when you don't write a will, your succession laws come into effect. What this means is that now you no longer choose who your property will go to. The law decides for you. For example, in Hindu, you have Hindu Succession Act. For Muslims, example, Sharia, you have the Muslim Sharia Inheritance Act. For Christians, you have separate law, Parsi, separate law, Jews, separate law, etc. So to give you an example, if a Hindu male passes away without writing a will, his property gets equally divided between his mother, his wife, and his children in equal parts. However, if the same man were to write a will, he could choose that everything that belongs to me should go to my wife, and after that, the children. That's exactly the difference. Of course, we know when we don't really have a will, and some of the Hindi Bollywood drama is actually inspired by real life. When you've not written a will, whose and who of your family are going to come and start claiming your assets? Naturally, when these disputes are not really resolved amicably, you then need to go to the court. And again, as a lawyer, I can vouch for the fact that litigation is very expensive, it's time consuming, and it's emotionally as well as monetarily very, very draining. Let's look at some hard-hitting facts. In India, 1,50,000 crores of the assets are unclaimed today. This means this is the hard-earned money, your and my hard-earned corporate India's money. And trust me, this is only financial aspects. I am not even covering the real estate part of it. There are two reasons why this is. One is, of course, we've not made a will. Second is, how many of us really know which is the bank account that our parents are generally banking with? How many of us know what are those small little FDs that our parents did during their time? We don't know. Obviously, if you don't know the existence of the asset, how are you even going to go ahead and claim it? And this is exactly why, in fact, you won't believe 25,000 crores is just employee provident fund. That's corporate India's money. Today, unfortunately, 76% of the disputes in India are all property related. And only if you're lucky, 3 years you'll get resolution. If there's any dispute, any contestment, then obviously it can go on for a decade. Let's look at some figures which are essentially reflected by some reputed organizations. And they've done quite a bit of research as regarding the position of women as on today, especially in light of the post-COVID scenario. It's good to share that 67% of the women are actually out of that survival mode, and they're kind of thinking of investing outside of their retirement kitty. A good amount of 73% of women have claimed that because of the pandemic, there has been a change in the mindset in which they used to erstwhile take their financial decisions. I'm also happy to see that 79% of the women have a life insurance policy. And to be very honest, actually, if you think of it, making a will is very similar to a life insurance policy, because in both of these, the goal is to take care of your loved ones when you're not there anymore. 68% of the women living in the developing economy have a bank account today, which also gives them the independence to keep their finances aside. However, it's a little disheartening to see that only 18% of the women actually understand the importance of making a will. And I'm hoping by the end of this session, we'll kind of up the scale a little more. And yes, 42% of the women are aware of basic knowledge of financial planning tools. Also, thank you to organizations that Meeta and Ritu are working towards. Essentially, the reason why I'm showing this wheel to you is to see that how women today are taking charge of their lives. And essentially, will is also a very important part of a financial hygiene scenario. And hence, we'll see how us taking small steps can have such a far-reaching impact. Now, there are several methods through which you can plan your succession. I'll briefly touch upon each of these. I promise to not make it jargony and too complex to scare you away. The most humble and the most important is a will. Essentially, in a will, you simply write down what your assets are and how those assets should be passed on to the next generation. So all you need is 2 people to witness your will, and then this is done. It's so easy to make a will. You won't believe that in the past, we've seen cases where a farmer has written a will on the back of the bonnet of his tractor, and it was a valid will. That is the kind of power of a will is, and that's how easy it is to write a will. A trust is a little more sophisticated structure. Essentially, when people have very specific goals, example, business families want to consolidate assets, everything under one entity, or let's say there are children with special needs, or let's say you want staggered payments to be made to your children. You think that if you give them everything now, they may, become a little brattish. So let's say some amount to go to them at 25, some 35, 45, staggered payments. And especially in families where you have different citizenships, for example, US, UK, because they have got certain tax implications, trust is a good option. Coming to the gift deed part, a gift really means if I give something to you, it's not mine anymore. For example, if I gift Meeta a watch, that watch belongs to Meeta. It doesn't belong to me. Gift in India is again very common at the time of marriage. Houses are gifted, lands or jewelry, cash. However, important thing to realize is once you've gifted it away, it is not yours anymore. You've lost control. I'll give you a small comparison in case of a will. In a will, if I write that if I'm not there anymore and Meeta will receive the watch, she will get it only once I'm not there anymore. And before that, I can give it to Ritu also. So I have the right to change it as many times and I still have control. In a gift, you don't have control. I'll specially, mention a real life case. This is Raymond family, Singhanias basically, where the senior Singhania gifted everything to the junior Singhania, only to know the fact that there are so many disputes now and he does not even have a place to live as per his own wishes. So gifting, I'm not saying it's entirely bad, but you can't gift all your assets away. Some portion is fine. Nomination. This is again one of the most misunderstood concepts. Generally, as per law, a nominee is only added for the sake of convenience, which means a nominee can only receive your assets only to pass on to the legal heirs. I'll give you an example which will help you break this down further. Let's say I have appointed my sister as a nominee in my bank account. Okay. Now, let's say I did not make a will. Now, if I pass away, my husband and my children are the legal heirs. My sister can take the money from the bank, but it is not hers anymore. She's supposed to take the money and give it to my husband and the children. So that is the difference between a nominee and a legal heir. Essentially, nominee is only for the sake of convenience. This is a general law. There are some few exceptions, but I'll not confuse you today at this session. But yes, remember one thing, that your nominee is only a trustee for your actual legal heirs. And lastly, there are some methods through which you can do estate planning. You can have an either or survivor clause in your bank account, which essentially says if the husband is not there anymore, everything will go to the wife. So you have certain, these kind of instruments also, which help you to plan succession. Okay, some hard-hitting myth busting is going to take place now. People generally think I should make a will only if I'm old or I'm sick or, I've lost the will to live, and that's when I should get a will done. But COVID has actually taught us that life is uncertain and we must plan for it now, especially when it's so easy. So it's not necessarily for only those small segments of suffering human beings to make a will. I, being a lawyer, can vouch for the fact that in traditional methods, you really needed a lawyer, go to the solicitor's office, see the bunch of those books lying there, a little intimidating and a serious environment. But things are not the same anymore. We've embraced technology in all aspects of life, so why not the legal field as well? And people also think a will needs to be on a green paper, or a will needs to be bearing the seal of the notary, or you need to go and register it. It's not true. You can have a will simply made on a white paper, get 2 witnesses, and your will is good to go. The third aspect, I explained to you that just because you are not there anymore or your partner is not there anymore, everything does not come to you by default. It will go as per the relatives which are defined under the law, which is applicable to you. I've busted the myth on nominee. A nominee is not a good plan of succession just because you've added somebody as a nominee. Or to be very honest, in most cases, how many of us even update our nominees? Because we start working when we're 23, 24. Most of us would not have been married at that time. So you pick your favorite parent and you add them as a nominee, only to then never update it. So one of the takeaways today is to go back and just see whether your nominations are updated or not. Generally, making a will used to be a very time-consuming process, and it used to be costly, but I can assure you it's not the same anymore, and we've kind of changed this particular fact as well. And also, just because you write a will, you do not lose control over your assets. You can change your will as many times as possible. If you have a house, you have a bank account, let's say you have a beautiful piece of guitar and you think that, okay, you know, one child of mine has a musical bent, you can choose to give that particular asset to that child. So it is yours till the time you're not around. Let's see now from a woman's angle, how is a will important? You know, I want to give you a little bit of background about why is the law slightly unfair? Not slightly, why is the law a little unfair when it comes to women? Most of our laws were enacted way before the British era. Indian Succession Act, 1925. Hindu Succession Act, 1956. Christian laws, it's all like in the 1900s. At that time, once a woman was married off, generally it was like, you know, now wo sasural ki ho gayi hai. That was like the general notion that people had. Parents themselves did not want to meddle much with the woman's affairs. And that's exactly why today, everywhere in all laws, the women's parents hardly inherit anything. And it's the in-laws have the first right. Generally, if you see in most religions, the wife usually gets only 1/3 or 1/4 of the asset, and in some laws sisters inherit only half of what the male sibling would get. So again, I'm trying to give you a scenario that times have changed but the law hasn't, and that is exactly why there's a disparity. However, with a will, you can change that. Now, let me share a case law with you. Now, in the pandemic, a daughter and a son-in-law passed away in quick succession. Unfortunately, they did not have any children. Now, as per the Hindu laws, her mother-in-law was entitled to her assets even before her own parents. Now, see, again, there's nothing wrong in the mother-in-law inheriting. I have nothing against a mother-in-law inheriting it. But you could choose that some portion can go to my mom-in-law, some portion can go to my mom, or some portion can go to your sibling. You could choose if you had written a will. But here, 2.7 crores worth assets went to the mother-in-law, and the mother was really not left with anything. So again, this shows that law is not updated with the changing times. We're hoping that it will, but obviously we don't know when. Till then, it is our duty to take this in our hands and do something about our situation. Now, let's just understand, now that you have a rough idea of what happens when you don't have a will, you have an idea about what is the role of a nominee. Let's understand the concept of a will little more in detail to see what are the benefits that really come along with it. Like I mentioned, it's the first and the most important step. See, whether you make a trust, whether you make a gift deed, whether you have a bank account, you need a will. All the other instruments or all the other methods you use are in addition to a will. Because while you and I are alive, we need some assets for our own upkeep, right? And that is why for us to retain that control, you always have to have a will. I mentioned this earlier. If you have a will, you can choose who your assets should go to and not really let the law decide how the distribution is going to take place. A will helps in very easy transfer of assets from one generation to another. What this means is that if you don't write a will, tell me, how will the bank guy really know who the family members are? Or how will the cooperative housing society know? Let's say you've not updated your nominee or you don't have a nominee. How will they know? You have to go to court. You have to apply for something called as a legal heir certificate, or it's also called Varisu certificate or Pedini Nama in Gujarat, etc. You go to court, you apply for that, and the court certifies these are the legal heirs. And then you take that, you again go to the financial institutions or mutual fund house or etc. And then the asset transfer takes place. See, earlier it used to be much simpler because the bank manager knew our family and the parents, right? Now it's not there. You probably don't even know who your neighbor is. And that's why all these methods are coming into place, all these strictures are coming into place. And usually, in our experience, we've seen anything above 2 lakh rupees, they ask you to submit a legal heir certificate for asset transfer. And obviously, when you've written a will, it reduces family disputes. People, actually think that, oh, if I write a will, what will my family think? But actually, it's the other way around, because if you write a will, there's at least a clear sense of direction. At least your family members will know what you really wished for. Most importantly, for young mothers, you can appoint a guardian through a will. It's one of the simplest methods through which you can appoint a guardian. As per law, the father is the first guardian and then the mother. But again, in COVID, unfortunately, we've seen parents passing away in quick succession. And then either set of grandparents are fighting for the custody of the child. Now tell me, who would know it better than you? Who will take good care of your child? So through a will, you appoint a guardian. And lastly, it gives you the power of choice. You can choose who to pass on your money to. Let's say you have a niece, not very financially sound, but she's academically so good. Allocate, some amount to her, and you can do that only if you have a will. Let's say, like I mentioned, one child may not be as well off as the other child. You can choose to help that child. Or simply, let's say you have a daughter who would appreciate your jewelry as opposed to your son. So you can choose to pass on the jewelry to that particular child. Now, some tips as a lawyer, what I've collected in my experience, I'd love to share it with you. So it'll help you make a very solid will. One is you should be of 18 years of age and you should be of sound mind, which means that you should be capable of understanding your actions. Understand your will as an asset register. See, think of it. If you've not written what your assets are in the will, how will your family even know the location of those assets? So it's always good to consider your will as an asset register, because again, we don't want to add on to that corpus of 1,50,000 crores, right? So take your will as an asset register. Your will should be signed by minimum of 2 witnesses. Preferably, they should not be receiving any benefit under the will. Appoint an executor. Now, interestingly, the law does not mandate that you appoint an executor. It's not compulsory. But if you don't, and your beneficiaries and nobody is willing to take on the responsibility to act as an executor, which means essentially the role of an executor is to make sure that all the wishes are carried out. So for example, if I've written that X amount should go to X person, then it's the executor's duty to make sure it's executed. So yes, if you don't appoint an executor and if your beneficiaries are again, nobody is willing to take it up, you again need to go to court and get somebody appointed. So imagine like one delay of like 1 more year. So appoint an executor. Some good to haves, these are again not required by law, but we've seen in our experience how this can go a long way. Video record the execution part of the will, the signing part. The witnesses don't need to know what you mentioned in the will, but only the signing part. It will show that you were of the right frame of mind when you were making it. Get a doctor's certificate which states that you were of physical and mental fitness at the time of you writing a will, so nobody can later on contest that, you were not in a correct state of mind. And lastly, if you are passing on immovable property, then it's good to get the will registered, because there are a lot of formalities and procedures which different parts of India have, and a registration always helps for that easy transfer. So some important tips for women: make an individual will. A lot of women think that, oh no, I want to make it with my husband, let's make one will, we'll save a few hundred rupees. But don't do that, because when you make one consolidated will, it's very hard to change it if one person is not there anymore. Make separate wills. See, get together, sit, discuss, but make 2 separate wills. Usually we've seen husband gives everything to wife, then the children. Similarly, wife give everything to husband, then then children. It's okay to make these mutual wills or to make mirror wills, so to say, but make your separate will. So you have the right to change it whenever you want. Add a nominee. See, again, it's important to add a nominee because asset transfer becomes very easy. So going back to the example I gave you, that my sister is a nominee, but I want my husband to get it, it's much better to just add my husband as a nominee. So make sure that your nominations are in sync with your wishes. That, okay, I want my child to receive it, or I want my sister to receive it, whatever it is, but update it. Add a guardian, because it really goes a long way if you have a small child. Choose a person who will take on the responsibility to act as an executor. Usually, my experience tells me, usually it's the spouse you appoint as an executor. Or if you're not married, or if you've separated, you have a sibling or a trusted friend who can act as an executor. Update your will from time to time. Our lives are not static. Why should your will be? How we update our investments, right? We take a look at our portfolios. It becomes very important, because you may have bought a new house and you never mentioned it in the will. You may, let's say there's a child which is born. Or let's say that you've decided, oh, my children are so well off. I think there is this amazing organization who takes care of pets or underprivileged children. So you have the power to choose and update and make sure that, your life is fulfilling. So you can kind of channelize it that way. Now, a little bit about who we are and what we do. Essentially, we saw all the problems that people were facing, expensive lawyers, time taken to make a will, a general unawareness about nominations, and of course, we saw how hard it was, especially for women, to go and make a will. So Yellow is the first of its kind app in India, which gives you the power to create a will within like minutes. I'll show you a video after this, how you can make your will under 15 minutes. And essentially, we've got all the best for you. We have a team of lawyers internally who can help you if you get stuck anywhere. It's very secure. You have like banking level securities. Again, there's a video which is there on our Yellow YouTube where we tell you how secure the app is. We also help you to take charge of your own life, because through the app, the will is in your hand. All you need to do is add simple details. You can edit it anytime you want. if I share the price with you, you'll like completely go nuts. That is how easy it is for you to create your will. And it's built by experts. So I'm a lawyer who's a part of the team. We also have our co-founder, Nikhil Varghese, who's a chartered accountant. We've been estate planners for many, many years now. And our team has a combined experience of 50 years. And we've protected more than 42,000 crores of assets in India. A little bit about, for those tech junkies who exactly want to know what are the security measures, that's 256-bit AES encryption. That's like the highest level of encryption which is available today in the world. And of course, it's super easy, guys, to make your will. So, you would have noticed a QR code is there on every slide. Just open your camera and you can just scan and download the app. I'd like you to play around it a little so you'll have an idea of how easy the app is. Essentially, you need to just punch in some details. When you click on generate it, all the legal jargons is taken care of by us. What we've also done is we've thought about a lot of things.
Can I interject one
Yes,
second?
please. Yes, please.
So, first of all, yes, I see that there are certain questions. We will take those questions about NRIs and whether, what are the various other questions. We'll take that in the end. So do hold on for that. But in the meanwhile, I would love to tell you that I have seen this app. And the reason that I loved and wanted Aditi to come on board for this presentation was for the fact that I think it's one of the most easy ways to make a will. And like one thing which Aditi also said was that you have to keep updating your wills. Now, when you have to keep going to a lawyer every time, and then he charges that phenomenal kind of money, and then you don't want to go, and then like for women, it's even more difficult to, to do all these things. Having an app where you can make a will and then just very quickly, have whatever you want to say in a piece, which is something which is in your control. It's priceless. It's priceless. So I would really urge every woman and man both to look at it. And of course, Aditi is going to tell you the price points of what this whole thing is about. She's going to take you through it. But to me, I think that whole, the fear factor, or the fact that we don't want to move, or we're like, for some reason, we're like, just don't want to move ahead in making our wills. Making wills becomes so much more easier because of something like this. So maybe Aditi, I would want you to show it how to, how the app looks like, how do you fill in things, and that video is extremely good, and I'd love for all the people in the audience to see that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll just quickly, Meeta, just take 2 minutes and complete the presentation, then I'll hop on to the video. So essentially, this is the pre-lifetime part. That is when you make a will. Now, a lot of the times, a person, whether they've made a will or not made a will, if you have an asset, it is going to go to someone, right? So yellow also helps with the asset recovery and transfer. So we are like a one-stop shop solution. We have 500 feet on the ground. We cover all major cities in India. And we help with everything like legal requirement, if you have filing of something, immovable assets, movable assets, everything. So you can also like go on the app and or the website and just check this feature out as well. And
Aditi, would you want to talk a little bit more on that? What all do you do? Apart from the making of the will, I would want people to understand this a little more. Reason being because people struggle. There are times when you have got some, you are one of the beneficiaries of a will, and thereafter you don't know what to do with it. I mean, I've seen so many cases where the people get properties and then they don't know what to do with it, who to go. So what exactly do you do? If you can spend 2 minutes to just explain.
Sure. Absolutely. So essentially, asset transfer takes place in two ways. Whether there is a will, or let's say there's no will. If there is a will, then whatever is mentioned in the will has to be carried out. If a will is not there, then whatever the law specifies, those people get it. Now, let's say a will is not there because that's the larger scenario. Then in that case, you have to first go to the court and apply for the legal heir certificate. Yellow helps you with that too. And once you have the legal heir certificate, you need to also identify what assets there are. Mutual fund houses mein kuch hoga, a bank account, fixed deposit, bank lockers. Then you have to take that legal heir certificate, go to every institution, and then fill up tons of forms and get the asset transfer done. But the easier method is, because we do this day in and day out, you come to us, of course, assessing your situation, we give you a fee quote once you agree. We do all this running around for you, and all you need to do is just understand from us where to sign. So that is how easy we've made it for you, because like I said, this is our bread and butter. We've done this asset recovery and transfer for like all our lives. So again, like I mentioned, lot of assets or asset transfer is a very, very painful process for most people. Sometimes, honestly, people don't even have time to do all this running around. So it will be really good if you can also, see, sometimes assets are stuck for years. Like, that there's a property which your grandfather has, but nobody has the time or the bandwidth to do something about it. So in all those situations, Yellow Smart, that we call it, really is beneficial. And lastly, the exciting offer for Moolah customers or Moolah tribe is use the code moolah10 and you'll avail like 10% off on all the Yellow services. I would like to share, you can make a will today only for 899 rupees. Imagine, like less than 1,000 rupees, and you can actually make a will. So Meeta, should I show the video first, or should we address the questions first in the chat?
I think let's first show the video and then we'll answer the questions. In the meanwhile, before even you show the video, this is the QR code. If anybody wants to straight away jump and download the Will app, the Yellow app right now, you can do that. Is this applicable for both Android as well as?
Yes, Android, iOS, both.
Okay.
Go ahead and do it. You also have getyellow.in. And in case you've got any further queries in the future, please reach out to us. We have app experts who help you with the app. If you have any legal query, you've got legal experts, me and my team, we reach out, and help you with your query resolution as well.
So it's a one-stop shop, right? It's a one-stop shop for everything that you may want in terms of services, which are like a pre and a post, a person being there or not there in terms of asset transfer or any of those things. So superb. Yes, Aditi. If
okay, I will. I'll stop sharing.
And do you want to also give the prices for your services so that people are also aware of what are the kind of price points?
Yes. So essentially, let me do one thing. Let me just show the video once, so women will get, curious about how easy it is, and then we'll jump onto the price bit.
Right.
We will follow the journey of Nikhil as he creates his first will on the Yellow app in less than 15 minutes. Nikhil starts by clicking on Create My Will, which takes him to the personal details section. In this section, he fills in his name, date of birth, and contact information as per his KYC document. In the My People section, we add the people that are most important to us. These people will play a role in our will. They may be beneficiaries, executors, witnesses, or guardians for our minor children. In this example, Nikhil is adding his spouse, Nupur, and his child, Ved, who will be beneficiaries in his will. Next, it's time to add the assets and liabilities that form your estate. While making your first will, you should just focus on the 3 to 5 assets that are the most important to you and your family, the ones that they will need access to if you are not around. In this example, Nikhil has added his house, his bank account, his demat account, and his car as the 4 assets that are most important to him and his family. The Yellow app makes it very easy to add and update your assets as you go along. Note that at Yellow, we don't ask for values or transactions or any other details other than simple details that will help you to identify the asset for the benefit of your family. And remember, once you create your first will, which includes your most important assets, you can always add more assets, liabilities, and other information and update your will on Yellow anytime. Next, Nikhil records his wishes, which are how he wants his assets to be transferred. The Yellow app makes it easy for you to distribute your assets among your beneficiaries and even add plans for contingencies such as secondary beneficiaries and residuary assets. In this example, Nikhil bequeaths all his assets to his spouse and then bequeaths any residuary assets equally between his child and his spouse. Residuary assets are basically all current or future assets that have not been named in. Next, Nikhil is going to add the executor of his will. The executor is the person responsible for carrying out the wishes as per the will. Most people will choose a spouse or a sibling as their executor in their first will. For more details, look at Yellow's resources page. Finally, in the case of minor children, it is important to choose a guardian in case both parents are not around. Most people choose a parent or a sibling or a very close and trusted friend as a guardian. And that's it. Nikhil has completed his first will on Yellow. He can now click on Generate Will and his legal document will be sent to him for signing. He has completed an important responsibility and protected his family in under 15 minutes. So what are you waiting for? Get Yellow today.
So beautifully easy to do it. And there are layers also that you can create. Like it says that you can not only the first beneficiary, if the beneficiaries are not there, then who is the second level and who is the third level. So yes, those are some very, very interesting things which the app offers. And of course, Aditi, if you can tell the price points and then we'll start taking the questions from people.
Sure. So essentially, you can create your will in as less as 899 rupees. And if you add moolah 10, you get an additional 10% off on that 899. That is where you just create a will. If you go on the website, you'll see some pricing tab. If you click on that, you'll also see that the smart component, which means that we also have a subscription model. Every year you pay something small, and obviously at the time comes, we help you with all the asset transfer end to end. The starting point of that is 1,999. However, on that also you get moolah 10, but you need to have some parameters like age, etc. you mentioned, and then it will reflect the pricing, but it's starting as less as that. Also, an important aspect for you to consider is that we also encourage you to, like I said, update your will from time to time. So with that 899, you can actually update your will as many number of times as possible. So I would encourage all of you to check out the website. We also have a web app, so you can even do it on your computer, like I mentioned, Android, iOS as well. So having said that, I think I'll jump into the questions, Meeta, and of course,
Absolutely.
I'm more than happy to then address anything else.
Absolutely. So
All
thank
right.
you so much, Aditi, for that lovely presentation. We'll take some questions. So one of the questions is from Mr. Bakshi. How about NRIs? The funds, FDs would be in some countries. How do we go about it? I'm talking about a person who is Indian passport holder, not changed nationality, and remained Indian national. How do they do that?
So essentially, if you are an NRI, we always recommend you to make a separate will for your assets abroad. There's a reason why. Different countries have different laws which are in place. To give you an example, in Dubai, if you don't want to get covered under the Muslim laws, you make your will and you have to get it registered with a body called the DIFC. Only then it will be a valid will. Otherwise, you fall under the Muslim laws of inheritance. So because of these reasons, we always recommend you make a separate will for Indian assets and make a separate will for your assets abroad. So that will help you kind of take care of this situation.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Bakshi or Ms. Bakshi? Okay. The next question is, if a person has assets in India and another country, then the will can cover both the countries or the best, right? We've already discussed that. Can an Indian citizen write will with foreign national children as beneficiaries and does not have to be registered? This does not have to be registered.
The answer is yes. On inheritance in India, there's no cap. Essentially, there's a $1 million threshold which is there. So they can receive any inheritance. There's no issue if a person, if your child is a foreign national at all. However, it's important for you to consider if it will become a part of their asset, there may be some tax implications in that particular country. So it's always good to make sure that you check from the taxation angle with the local citizenship laws that are there. But otherwise, there is no bar on adding any citizen as a beneficiary in your will.
Thank you for that. Mr. Jagtar says there's a gender bias throughout, still very informative. I am sorry to say, nowadays, what to do, Mr. Jagtar? It's a woman's world. We've lived in a man's world long enough. I think it's our time now. So I'm so sorry for that, but really, hope that this presentation was useful for you. So thank you for that. There are lots of people saying a very good presentation to you, Aditi. So that's great. Another question is, what about children are other nationalities, not Indian anymore? So if they're not Indian anymore, can this app take care of all those also? And can it be done? Will be made?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people, they go from here, first generation, they have green card. Next generation, when it's born there, they're US, British, etc. There's no issue on that. They can be very well added as a beneficiary in your will. But only one point to consider, like I mentioned, is that they may have some tax implications from that country. To give you an example, in the US, UK, Canada, Singapore, all these countries have something called an inheritance tax, death taxes, which means if their parents in that country, let's say, if a person is a US citizen, they pass away, then there's a certain tax which is there on the estate. Now, if your children were to receive something from you, it becomes a part of their estate. So it's good to plan it out with the tax guy there. But this is just an additional information I'm giving you. However, there's no bar for you to add them as beneficiaries in your will.
Yeah. So the next question is, can nominees play games? How do we handle it?
nominees play games. Interesting. Yes, there can be a foul play, right? And that's exactly why you should update your nominations. If you want, let's say, one child to inherit something from one bank account, just make that child a nominee of that bank account. Or if you want both to inherit it, just make both of them as nominees. Today, everybody gives you the option 50-50 distribution or 40, 60, etc., etc. So because we should avoid any of these foul play later, it's always good to make sure that, you just sort all this out right now as well.
Because once you're not there, you can't handle it.
Yeah, there's
Right?
really nothing.
Then somebody else will have to handle it.
Yeah. And they just start thinking that, oh, this mom liked this one more and that one more, and that's why their
That you
name.
can't help. That you can't help. That will anyway happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, what is the 1 million cap for children as US citizen? You mentioned that, right? So
Yeah, essentially, below $1 million, there's very less formality that one needs to do. But essentially, if the cap exceeds, that's the amount through which on inheritance will go out. Beyond that, you need to take some permissions from RBI, etc., etc. So especially for families with NRIs, we generally plan, inheritance out. Like, for example, create a trust structure. 1 year, some distribution has gone. Just to give you an example. So because for any money going outside India, we need to comply with the foreign exchange laws which are there. So this is a cap which the RBI provides for.
fair enough. So, but if they want to keep it in India, then that should be fine. It's only for
That's
taking it out of India, right? If they want to take money out of India, or if the assets after selling it, they want to take it out of India, then that, I guess, then that's the cap.
So then again, on sale and all, there are different parameters which are there. Right. So essentially, especially in case of, NRIs, like I mentioned, it's always good to plan the taxation part properly.
Right. So this app is actually for only Indians. Okay. It's for your assets in India and for Indians. It's not for assets out of India. So that's something we must be aware of.
Yeah. So, sorry, Meeta, I'll just add one thing. It's for assets in India. That's the crux. So even if you're a US citizen holding some assets in India, then it's good. So again, to give you an example, when there's an agricultural property, if you inherit it, it's fine, but you can't gift it, because that's what the laws in India say. NRIs can't really gift any agricultural property. Or in India, we've got different laws in different states for agricultural property. So like I mentioned, it's always good to have a very holistic view and understanding of your assets, and then make sure that you plan the transfer accordingly.
Right. So the other question is, does the app take care of registration?
Okay, the app does not take care of registration. It's just to make a will. Registration is a service which Yellow provides at an additional cost. Registration cost in India varies from place to place. In Bangalore, it's, I think, 6,000-7,000 rupees. In Mumbai, it can range from 7,000 to 10,000 rupees, etc. Hyderabad, I think, is a little on more expensive side. But essentially, registration is different in different, cost is different in different states.
So right now, the way the will works, the app works, is that once you put all the assets, beneficiaries, executors and everything, and you're ready for the will to, you just say, you have to press the final button. They'll ask you to make certain payments. And after that, there could be two options. You could print the will yourself, or you could tell Yellow to print it for you and send it to you. Once you get the will, you have to get it signed by two beneficiaries, because an online will is not valid. You have to take a physical copy, a printout of the will. You have to get it signed by two witnesses. Once the two witnesses have signed it, then the will becomes valid. Now, if you want to register it or notarize it, and if you want the services of Yellow, then you can take their services in that case. Right, for that, or otherwise you can do it yourself. And as many times you want to, like she said, that you must keep updating your wills, because life is not static. We're going to be changing assets, we're going to be changing bank accounts, we're going to be changing cars, we're going to be changing houses. So over a period of time, it's always good to keep updating your assets, and that's why something which is so cheap and so easy to use makes a lot of sense. So that's the beauty, I think, of the whole app. Who prevails between the person named in the will and the nominee if they're different? It's always the person on the will, right?
Always the person in the will who will prevail. So
Right.
I'd like to point out there are 2-3 exceptions here. Like I mentioned, as a general rule that the nominee will prevail. But in case of your insurance, in case of your pension, and in case of your motor vehicles, to again give you an example, your nominee prevails. I know it's a little complicated, and that's why honestly, Meeta and I are even in discussion for a series on this estate planning topic. We'll have a series of sessions, but these, apart from these few exceptions, for your other regular assets, whether it's immovable property, bank account, fixed deposit, everything, the nominee will prevail.
Yeah,
So
but
just
the
remember that
important
part.
thing to remember is that you don't put life insurances in your wills, because the person, whoever is the beneficiary under the life insurance policy, will be the person who will get the thing. Similarly, like she said, in case of pension, whoever is the nominee there will be getting that pension amount, even if you say something different in the will. Okay, so the will have no, it won't override what is written in the life, whoever you put down in the as a beneficiary in the life insurance policy or in the pension, or I didn't know the motor vehicle. So even in the case of a car, if you've got that, right? But for all other things, your will be applicable. We have another question, Aditi. We'll take 3 more questions. The question is, are there any security concerns? How are they addressed in the app? Is the data secure?
The data is super secure. Like I mentioned, we have 256-bit encryption. That is, this technology is used by like the US defense and the India defense to take care of their confidential data. As it is, all the data is masked. So this is all secured under the zero privacy vault. We have tie-ups with several of these tech organizations which protect your data. Like I mentioned, there is no issue on data security. And obviously, if you want to know more details, we have a video on YouTube. You can just type "get yellow privacy security," and it'll take care of your concerns there.
Also, Mr. Tyagarajan, the thing is that the app does not ask you for detailed information of any of your assets. It only asks you for the last 4 digits of your account number, or, those kind of things. So you do not have to enter beyond a point the details in the assets. It's more for just identification purposes that you're going to be mentioning the asset, so you're going to either take a photograph or something. So nobody's telling you where the physical assets need to be or all those things. Those things are not really, asked for a lot on. So it's apart from the fact that it's safe. Yeah, continue, Aditi.
Yeah. In fact, we don't even ask you to put values, because values keep changing from time to time. Yeah. Only enough details so that your family can identify the asset. Last 4 digits of the bank account, branch is very important. So then you go, so somebody can go there and identify. That's it. No values are needed.
Right. So the other question is, what if a foreign national lives in India? Does the 1 million cap apply? So it's only
1 million
transferring out.
Outside. Within India, there's no issue.
Do we need the name of the executor and nominee in the writing of a will? Does the executor and nominee need to be present along with witnesses, or are just plain witnesses needed?
See, you should definitely mention the name of the executor, and your executor should even know that he's appointed as an executor. Nominee details you don't need to mention in the will, although our app provides you for a nominee kind of tab is there to add the details. It's good to add, but it's not compulsory to add your nominee, because you may want to change your nominee. Let's say today you want to give it to your husband and you realize that your sister is the nominee. So then you don't need to mention sister as the nominee. You can just update it. So again, it is recommended to add your executor in the will itself.
Yes,
and witnesses
in terms of the signing, only the 2 witnesses are needed. You don't need any executor or nominee to be present when the will is to be signed. Only the 2 witnesses. And like she said, it's best that you take a picture at that time or a video at that time, so that you all know that that this event is happening. Does this app cover employee stocks of MNCs kept in US bourses?
So see, US stock exchange, if there are, again, those are stocks which will be governed by the US laws. However, all this needs to also be assessed. Are you on a work permit there? Do you intend to come back? Or what is the citizenship status? So again, like I mentioned, assets in India is what we essentially deal with.
Right.
And for any assets outside, we recommend that you add it as per the laws which are applicable over there.
Right. So please note again that this app is a vanilla app, right? It's like if you have to add, flavors, and you have to add chocolate, and you have to add all that, then you have to go to Aditi and get all those things done. But to get a bare minimum, will ready, that's the place to go for. Is a unregistered will valid?
Absolutely. Unregistered will is also valid. Registered will is only recommended. It's not mandatory. Even the law does not prescribe. In fact, your section 17 and 18 of Indian Registration Act say that a will is not compulsory registrable instrument. So you don't need to register it, but we recommend to register it, especially if you have immovable property. It just adds to the solidity of it being a good will.
So Anu has a question. Thanks, Aditi. Anu has a question. If the will writer passes away, what are the first few steps that the heir needs to take? If you can just give that.
Right. So if the writer of the will passes away, essentially we write in the will that the executor starts taking charge. So the executor should take care of the funeral, other expenses, pay off any debts, get a meeting of the beneficiaries together, assess what assets are there, then make sure to have a plan in place how the distribution will take place.
Right, and they have to go to the court to get a probate.
Also, probate is there only in Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. Otherwise, you don't need a probate.
Oh, okay. So can a foreign national who is an OCI holder be a karta for a HUF business?
Okay, so Neha, Suresh, let's take this offline because
Offline.
karta and all of this is, all
Again,
different ball
second, third, fourth levels, right? Wills are for
Yes,
individual.
yes.
Business will happen through succession planning. You're right. Can an executor be a beneficiary? Yes, an executor can be a beneficiary.
Absolutely. Yes. Look at how pro Neeta has become. Neeta has become. She's already answering all the questions.
Yes, so some of these questions, like, I've been there, done that. I made my own will. I understand all that, Aditi. So yes, I think this was awesome. This was a lovely presentation. I would urge all of you that get inspired by today's presentation and make your wills. It's important for you. It's important for your family. It's important for everyone's, mental health and peace to have a will in place. So yes, do not shy away from making wills. And of course, Yellow has made it easier. If you want to reach out to Aditi, you can reach out to me or to Saloni. Aditi, do you want to give your phone number or somebody's number directly who they can reach out to? And of course, if you want to take the 10% off, you can use the moolah code, which is moolah10, MOOLAH, along with a 10. And that can be good for you to take some discounts too. Yeah, so Aditi, are you sharing your number? Otherwise, the best is you can reach out to me.
Type it here. Yeah, I'll just type the details here.
Yeah.
Right.
You can reach out to Aditi directly, or you can reach out to me and I can help you connect.
Yes, either ways. I'll just type it out here.
So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today.